In this episode, we're going to talk about how much the average American spends in retirement and what you can learn from these numbers. Stick around, some of this data may surprise you. Hey there, this is Patrick King with Prana Wealth. On this channel, we show you how to retire well. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to check out our free resources at pranawealth.com/resources. A while back, I made a video detailing what you need to save in order to afford spending $10,000 a month in retirement. Many of you let me know that this was way too high of a number. So I wondered, how much does the average American actually spend in retirement? The old retirement planning rule of thumb states that your post-retirement expenses should equal 80% of your pre-retirement expenses. But is that true? Each year, the Bureau of Labor Statistics studies how much Americans actually spend in retirement, and the data might surprise you. In fact, stay tuned until the end where I go over 3 surprising takeaways from this study. The Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey divides consumers into age-based groups. For the purposes of examining retiree spending, we'll look at the eldest 3 groups: people between ages 55 and 64, people between ages 65 and 74, and finally, people age 75 and older. Making these comparisons can be challenging since many people choose to retire somewhere in the middle of the first age group we're examining. Some of this cohort's data may include both retirees and those still choosing to work for the entire period, so keep this in mind as we move forward. According to the 2020 survey, each year, people in these age groups spent, on average, $64,937 per year for those between 55 and 64, $52,356 per year for those between 65 and 74, and finally, $40,839 per year for those over 75. Of course, these are averages from a limited sample set. Your spending in retirement may vary quite a bit. However, as we can see, spending tends to drop significantly over time. If spending does indeed decline in retirement, how does it stack up against pre-retirement expenditures? In other words, does the 80% replacement rule still hold? Given that many in the 55 to 64 age group are still working, it's hard to draw conclusions from this group. However, we can use the age 45 to 54 group as our benchmark. So for our 3 retirement groups, the replacement ratios are 87% for those between 55 and 64, some of which are still working, 70% for those between 65 and 74, and 55% for those 75 and older. Again, it's difficult to draw any conclusions from the age 55 to 64 group, although their expenses do drop. However, it's the eldest 2 age groups where we find some significant reductions in retirement spending. Based upon this data set, the 80% rule might need to be revised downward to 70%. However, we should note that there is some variability in these numbers. Also, there's no way to easily parse out whether these expense reductions were consistent across all ranges of net worth within each age cohort. While a reduction in spending over time may not come as a complete shock, there were some surprises in the data. First and most importantly were the numbers on healthcare spending. According to the survey, average healthcare expenses stayed relatively consistent over age 65. The age 65 to 74 group spent $6,695 per year on average, while the age 75 and above group spent $6,627. I find this extremely encouraging given the continuously rising costs of healthcare. On average, seniors aren't spending more on healthcare past 65. So if you're worried about healthcare expenses in retirement, you may be able to sleep easier. The second surprise in the BLS survey data was the cost of housing for retirees. While housing costs are the biggest line item in the average American's budget regardless of age, they drop later in life. It's not clear why this is the case, although we can certainly speculate. It's also encouraging that after age 75, 4 out of 5 own their own home, with 77% of that number having completely paid off their house. Third, one of the most surprising and heartening trends in this data shows that Americans become more generous as they age. The amount of money given to family, friends, and important causes increases, both in the amount and the percentage of their overall budget. In the 75 and over age group, giving comprises around 8% of their total expenses, up from 6% in their prior decade. The data in the most recent consumer expenditure study clearly indicates that retirees spend less in retirement than they did while they were working. The 80% replacement rule is alive and well. Of course, this is just one study, and no one person is average. Since retirement spending is the main driver in the success of your financial plan, it's important that you have a plan before you leave work for the last time. So what do you think? Do you think you'll be able to reduce your expenses by 20% in retirement? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please help me grow my channel by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. And don't forget to check out our free resources at pranawealth.com/resources. If you need help figuring out how much you can spend in retirement, then visit us at pranawealth.com to see if we're a good fit. We can and do work virtually with clients all across the US, and we're here to help you whenever you're ready. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.